Politico first reported on the hack, saying it received Trump campaign documents from an anonymous account last month. Now, NBC News reports, quote, the documents included research papers on at least two of the contenders to be Trump's running mate, including the eventual Republican vice presidential nominee, J.D. Vance. All of this comes as Donald Trump struggles to adjust to Vice President Kamala Harris's rising momentum. New reporting from the New York Times dives into the chaos behind the scenes and what the newspaper describes as the worst 3 weeks of Donald Trump's campaign. Joining us now is former Congressman and 2020 Republican presidential candidate Joe Walsh and Rachel Palermo, former Deputy Communications Director and Associate Counsel to Vice President Kamala Harris. We had a lot to get to today, so we didn't even need an intro this morning because truly, let's start with the hack. I just want to pull this up. So Microsoft confirmed, and this comes from NBC News' Vaughn Hilliard and Alexandra Marquez. The Trump campaign spokesperson, Stephen Chung, pointed to a Microsoft report released Friday, which said that an Iranian group, this one connected with the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or IRGC, sent a spear phishing email in June to a high-ranking official on a presidential campaign. Now, I think we should be clear that Microsoft did not identify the campaign that was targeted, and a spokesperson for Microsoft and NBC News reached out, declined to share details about the incident beyond what was written in their report Friday, and NBC News has not been able to verify that Iran was behind the hack for the Trump campaign. So all that on the table. Thoughts? Joe?
Claimed. I don't want to be the guy at the table, but I'm going to say, or the person at the table. The Trump administration claimed they were hacked. Everyone's initial reaction should be, we can't believe him. We can't believe them. And that's their fault, Simone. You can't believe anything that comes out of Donald Trump's mouth. This is serious business, but I want it verified first.
It's too specific for me.
Really? I just want to back up and be clear. Like, we know that some anonymous person named Robert, okay, was peddling internal information from the Trump campaign. So while we have not, as NBC News, been able to independently verify that it was in fact Iran, like, we do know that somehow some internal documents got out. That is in fact a hack.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So what are we skeptical about?
The origin of the hack. I mean, I can hack myself if I want.
Oh, Lord.
I mean, I agree with Joe.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. This is a space that's been created by him.
Yes.
And now I'm supposed to just fall down believing because he says he was hacked by Iranians with such specificity when nobody else in government or elsewhere can verify that? So I hear you and I understand what you're saying. But at the end of the day, this is the environment Donald Trump has created.
He created.
And so now if I show skepticism or Joe shows skepticism, don't come at me because that's you. So you remember Russia? All right. Can we talk about Russia? Let's hear Trump in 2016, if we could, real quick. Thank you very much.
If it is Russia, it's really bad for a different reason, because it shows how little respect they have for our country when they would hack into a major party and get everything. But it would be interesting to see. I will tell you this. Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing. I think you will probably be rewarded mightily by our press.
Hello.
Thank you. So, Joe?
That's why this man, I mean, Americans should decide who our American president is. This was a serious issue in 2016. Trump encouraged Russia to hack, welcomed it. I can't believe a thing he says now until we have actual verification.
Rachel, just to back it up a little bit, I mean, I think part of what we're all contending with is the inevitable reality that we know that there are foreign actors who want to sow seeds of chaos, right, Rachel? And so if you are a campaign, not only are you dealing with a media environment that has changed, not only if you're Democrats, are you on an asymmetrical playing field with Donald Trump, you are also constantly mindful of the fact that at any moment the ground can shift underneath you because there are foreign actors who are trying to add chaos to the environment.
I agree with what others at the table have said about the importance to verify here, but I do think this does go to an important issue of our democracy. In 2016, we saw how the hacks impacted our democracy, and I think that if it does turn out that there was some sort of foreign meddling, that's something that people need to be really careful about, and I would encourage the public and I'd encourage journalists to be careful about how they use that information if it comes out that that is the case. And so I think there's a lot more information that we need to find out before people start deciding how to move forward here.
So the question, I think, ultimately boils down to what both of you said, and that is, okay, let's get the information, let's get the verification. What we're hearing now is from one side. NBC has not verified, and I don't think anybody else has really verified this, Politico or anybody else who's seen this information. So in that sense, we have to wait, and the campaign has to go on. So how does the campaign, and both campaigns at this point, go on? What measures should they be taking? Because we do know that, we do have foreign actors, to both the ladies at the table's point, about, who want to get into this race in a way that is not healthy. What do you suggest campaigns should be doing right now?
Being as vigilant as they can, Michael. And look, and I'm sure the Harris campaign will put out an appropriate statement that this is a really serious issue. If it's true, Americans, not foreign actors, should decide who our presidents are. But 2016 was a big, 2020 was a big deal. Mm-hmm. And the Trump administration reacted to it like, bring it on, welcome it. We've got to be the opposite of that this time around.
Well, I mean, the thing, Simone, those deep sighs, Simone, I think come because this is not the wackiest thing potentially that has happened in the past week. The entire contour of this race has shifted. I'm sure you guys saw the New York Times reporting. Let me read you a little bit from it. Trump has seemed to want to wish his new situation away. He claimed on Truth Social without evidence that Biden regretted his decision to drop out and wanted to undo it. He has also peppered his advisors with questions about whether Harris can sustain her momentum, constantly asking what new polling shows. I mean, Rachel, he is clearly unmoored, to say the very least. And there's been a question throughout. This is a different campaign structure than past Trump elections. There's actual infrastructure here. I think the big question is, can they get him back on something resembling a message?
I don't think so. I think Donald Trump is absolutely spiraling. The Trump campaign was clearly prepared to run against President Biden. And now that Kamala Harris is at the top of the ticket, they don't know what to do. And it's why you see him throwing all these sorts of offensive insults to see what sticks. Nothing is landing. And he's had a really difficult few weeks. And put that in contrast with the incredible few weeks that Vice President Harris has had. She's had incredible momentum, and it's continued week after week. This week alone, with the announcement of Governor Tim Walz as her running mate, that was another continuance of the excitement about her candidacy. And I think people are seeing the vision, they're seeing the contrast, and as he continues to spiral, she's continuing to do better.
He's still running against Biden. Michael, you and I talked about this. I think his campaign, Rachel, says you have a different opponent. He was in Montana a night and a half, 2 nights ago, still talking about Joe Biden. He won't move on.
Yeah. Okay, but, much has been made about the fact that Chris LaCivita and Susie Wiles, who are now senior advisoring and running the Trump campaign, these are campaign professionals. These are folks that know what they're doing, so on and so forth. Why didn't they have a strategy for this?
They probably say they don't.
Okay.
They probably do.
Because they said that they did. I mean, all the Republican strategists I talked to in the immediate aftermath were like, yeah, there is a plan for this. But there was clearly no plan.
Well,
there's the candidate, but then there's also the campaign apparatus. Neither had a plan.
But if the candidate ain't following the plan, there is no plan, right? I mean, that's the problem with. I mean, LaCivita is a good operative.
Yeah.
Wiles is a good operative. Donald Trump is a sucky candidate.
Yes, but what was the plan? I didn't hear any contrast of the plan. I heard them talking about she was a DEI candidate. I heard them talking about she's a woman, and not just Donald Trump. Republicans writ large across the board. Remember, the Speaker of the House had to send a note saying, "Hey, let's not be racist." There's other things to attack on. Let's attack on policy. So there was no plan. So why was there no plan? I'm just wondering why there was no plan.
I think there was a plan, and I think the plan was to pivot to she's very left on policy.
Right.
But again, to Michael's point, then you put the candidate in front of a camera down at Mar-a-Lago for 90 minutes, and all he talks about is Joe Biden. And I can't believe this isn't fair. Now I have to beat two candidates. And then he goes after her in ugly and personal ways. If you have a plan, but he's your candidate, there's no plan.
There's no plan.
Well, you know who got a plan? Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, honey, because they are executing it.